Welcome back. It is officially October and I've got my long sleeve shirt on and my lovely cup of coffee here with Pikachu on it. I am ready to go. We are going to focus primarily on vocabulary today, but it's very fun vocabulary. So let's get started. We are going to practice using colors. I don't know why, but when it comes to studying languages, colors are always one of my favorite things to study. They're just fun for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Okay, so first thing I'm going to point out, those of you who already know kana, you might want to start working on learning the kanji. You can find those at the top of these words. This one is written in katakana because it comes from an English word. But all of the other ones have kanji. The exception to this is midori. It does have a kanji, but I did not put it here because you don't know any of these letters yet. So I did not put the kanji. Instead, I put the hiragana because we're doing kind of a progressive thing. But don't worry about it too much. We will focus specifically on kanji later. Right now, we're still learning the hiragana, so we're kind of a long way from that anyway. But in order of the rainbow, we have Akka. Akka means red. Then this one, orange. Orange. It comes from the English word orange. And then this one, it has the long I sound. That's important. So it's ki, I, ro. And then those two E's come together. Kiro. Kiro. This one, Midori. Midori. If you watch My Hero Academia, the character Midoriya, his name comes from this color, which is why he has green hair. Then we have blue, which is ao, a, o, ao. And purple, which is murasaki, murasaki, murasaki. Let's talk about the color pink for a second because it's the oddball out on this page and also because I want to make a cultural note here. So this word comes from English and it is pronounced pinku. Pinku. You cannot just say pink. It is pinku. Pinku. Yes, this word comes from English and yes, it is very similar to the English word. But we must use the Japanese pronunciation when we are speaking Japanese. If I'm speaking English, I'm going to say pink. But if I'm speaking Japanese, I need to say pinku. Pinku. The reason I am pointing this out is because the same thing is true in reverse. All of you people who like to watch anime and you get angry when we call it anime instead of anime or manga instead of manga. That's not how we pronounce it when we're speaking English. When we are speaking English, we use the English pronunciation. If I'm speaking Japanese, I'm gonna say anime and manga. But if I'm speaking English, I'm going to say anime because that is the way to pronounce it using English phonics. And if that makes you angry, let me just ask you this. Do you do this with all of the Japanese words that are in English? Toyota, Nissan, karaoke? These are all Japanese words, and that's not how they're pronounced in Japanese. So unless you are doing this consistently with all words, don't do it with anime and manga. And don't correct people when they say it like that. And this is true for all languages. We will always use the pronunciation system of whatever the language is, regardless of where the word comes from. With that rant out of the way, this word is pinku. And you can actually do this with just about any of the colors. If you forget what they are in Japanese, if you can say the English word using the Japanese pronunciation, they will probably know what you're talking about. For example, if I want to say that my cat is black, but I can't remember the word black, I can say buraku instead. Anyway, now onto the neutral colors. We have first chairo, chairo, which is brown, shiro, which is white, kuro, which is black, and hairo. Notice again, there is a double I here. Hairo, hairo, hairo. We must double that I sound. It's important. Now, the word color in Japanese is iro. And we can actually put the word iro next to a noun to make that noun into a color. The first one is kinro, which is gold. Kin is gold and iro is color. Gold, color, gold. The next one is mizuiro, which is watercolored, and it's used for like a light blue. And then the ones at the bottom are words that we just looked at. The first one, brown, chairo. Cha means tea, so brown is tea colored. And then we have hairo. Hai means ash, so hairo is ash colored. Next up, we have two more phrases. These consist of just one word, so there isn't a whole lot to explain here. We just have sumimasen, sumimasen. This one means excuse me. Japan is a very polite country, so you will hear this phrase all the time. Sumimasen. Excuse me. Sumimasen. Then we have gomennasai. Gomennasai. If you watch anime, I'm sure that you've heard both of these phrases many times already, but now you know what they mean. Gomennasai means I'm sorry or please forgive me. These are pretty straightforward, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. I'm over here again. We have a new particle. This one is to, and it is used to mean and, but it is different from the English word and. Unlike English, the particle to must come between every single word that is in a list. Whereas in English, we only put it just before the last one. We must have it in between every single word. And unlike the English word and, to cannot be used to connect two sentences together. There's a different word for that. So, to is only used to make a list. So, here we have orange to shiro. Orange, orange, to, and shiro, white. Then we have inu to neko, a dog and a cat. So, since we had a lot of vocabulary words this time, we are going to focus on reviewing those. So, first we have the question, Nani iro desu ka? Nani iro desu ka? Do you remember what nani means? What is nani? Nani is what? Iro, you just learned. Iro is color. What color is it? Nani iro desu ka? These bananas are not yellow. What color are they? Take a second and see if you can read it. What color are they? Ao desu. Ao desu. They are blue. How about this one? Nani iro desu ka? What do you think? Pink desu. Pink. Pink. It is pink. What about this one? Nani iro desu ka? Who's that kid from My Hero Academia? What's his name? Midori desu. They are green. Green pigs. Now let's make things a little bit more difficult. Let's try naming things that have more than one color. So this is a zebra. It has two different colors. What are they? Nani iro desu ka? What colors? What colors are they? Red and black. How can I say it is red and black? What do you think? Akka, red, to, and kuro, black. Akka to kuro desu. It is red and black. How about this one? Nani iro desu ka? It is white and yellow. How can I say that? Shiro to kiiro desu. It is white and yellow. Now let's try a really hard one. Are you ready? Nani iro desu ka? How many colors does this one have? I can see red, green, blue, yellow, and purple. 5 colors. Remember, to has to come between each one. So how can we say this? Take a minute, pause if you need to. How can I say? Now, because this one has a lot of different colors, I went ahead and color coordinated it so it's easier to read. But we have murasaki to, midori to, kiro to, ao to, akka desu. They are purple, green, yellow, blue, and red. Would you like to eat these grapes? I think they look kind of interesting. Now, before we wrap things up, we have some new hiragana. The first thing that you might notice is that 2 of these don't have pictures, but we will get to that in just a second. First, let's go through all 5. Ta, chi. It's not T, but chi, ta, chi. This one I'll put up here because I'm running out of room. This one is tsu. Now, this one is not tu, and it's also not su. The T and the S are both pronounced tsu, tsu. Then the rest of them are normal. We have te and to. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. So the reason that ta has no picture is the same reason that ka had no picture. Ta is very similar to ka in that they both look like what they sound like. So if we finish this circle here, it becomes the letter A, and it says its own name. Ta, ta. This one's easy peasy. Next up, we have chi. And he is cheesing. Cheese, cheese. Now, you might notice that this looks very similar to sa. This one is sa. This one is chi. They are reverse of each other. And this is really confusing at first, and it takes some practice. But the way that I used to remember it is that chi looks a little bit like the number 5. Right? Chi, chi. So if you can remember that whenever someone's taking your picture, right, we usually have to wait a few seconds while they take multiple pictures or the timer counts down or whatever. So if you can remember that you need to say cheese for 5 seconds, right? Say cheese. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Click. That can maybe help you to remember how they are different. So the one that looks like number 5 is chi, chi, cheese. Say cheese. The next one is super easy. It looks like a tsunami. And we got a guy surfing on top of it. Next up is te. And the reason it doesn't have a picture is because I couldn't find one that I liked. I have always remembered it as being a tent, right? Te, te, tent. It looks like a tent to me, but I could not find any pictures that looked like that. And the last one is to, which looks like a toe. Let's take a look at the stroke order. This one is pretty self-explanatory. And now that you've got some practice, you're probably used to it. We do our arms first, come down, and then we have you, number 3 and number 4. And one more time, draw your arms, bring it down, and then make your A. Ta. Next up is chi. Chi, so it's just like sa but backwards. There we go. Draw it across. Bring him down. Cheese. Cheese. And if it's a little hard to picture the same drawing from before, let me just change my color real quick. Think of these are your eyes. Right here are your eyes. This is his nose. Here is teeth. There, see? Cheese, cheese. Tsu only has one stroke. You just come around like this, bring it down. Tsu, one more time. Come around like that. Pretty easy for that one. Tsu, tsu. Next up we have te, which is also pretty easy. You kind of go up and then you gotta flick it around like that. Pitch your tent. Ready? And boom. Te. Te. And finally, we have to. Now, with this one, you might be tempted to do number 2 first. But it will look funny if you do. So, do number 1. And then come around. To. Notice that number 1 is just a little bit slanted. It's not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then you can make your to. To. There we go. Now, the daktens for this row are a little bit weird compared to the other ones. 3 of them are normal. We have da. Da is normal. Then we have another G. All right, if you remember that she also becomes G. And then this one, zu. Su also becomes zu. Then the other 2 are normal, de and do. So the T becomes a D. So let's talk about these 2 right here. We already learned that she, with the dakten, makes the G sound, and su, with the dakten, makes the zu sound. And 95% of the time, these are the 2 that you're going to use. But there are a few words that use these 2 instead. So it really just comes down to memorizing the spelling. There are very few words that use these. Most of the time, if you hear a G or a zu, it's going to be these 2. And now that you know the hiragana for tsu, we're going to briefly talk about the little tsu. This does have a proper name. It's called the sokuon, but most people are just going to call it the small tsu or the little tsu. In Romaji, the little tsu is represented by a double consonant, right? So anytime you see a word like this one, gakko with the 2 Ks here, right? That's actually a little tsu. And it means that we need to pause, right? So anytime you see a double consonant in Romaji, or if you see a little tsu, you can see it's a little bit smaller than the other characters, right? It's a little smaller than normal. We have to pause there. So this first word here is ga, go, ga, go. There is a very short pause between the ga and the ko. It is not gakko. It's not. The pause is very, very important. Gakko, gakko. Now, this next one has a double S. And a lot of times when Japanese people are saying words that have the double S like this, usually they'll lengthen out the S sound like a snake a little bit. It's very similar to how the letter T in English sometimes makes a D sound whenever we're speaking casually. But you're not wrong if you say it with a true T sound. In the same way here, You can have za shi with a true pause, or you can lengthen it out with the S. Either one is fine as long as the S sound is quiet compared to the rest of the word. So you can say za shi with a true pause, or za shi with an S kind of drawn out in the middle. Za shi, za shi. Next up, we have kite, kite. If you have the book, you'll see that this means postage stamp, which it does. It does mean postage stamps, but it is also the te form of the verb kuru, which means to come. So kite, kite, come here, kite. And that is it for this lesson. Your homework today is to memorize the first 10 numbers. Now, I do want to point out a note here. You'll notice that some of these have got more than one. We have shi and yon, shichi and nana, and then ku and kyu. There is a little bit of a misconception regarding this number here and this number here. So it's true that shi also means death and kyu also means suffering. Because of this, whenever you're having a conversation and you need to mention the number 4 or the number 9, most of the time you're going to use yon and ku. It is also true that these numbers are considered unlucky. So sometimes apartment buildings or stores or things like that will completely skip the number 4. They'll go from like floor 3 to floor 5, and there will not be a floor 4. However, a lot of people read this in their textbook and they blow it out of proportion and think that no matter what, under any circumstance, they should never ever use this word. And that is not the case. There is a reason why it's taught, right? If this word were never used, it would not be in your textbook. It is used. And when you are counting, it is very normal to use this word. If you are counting something, there is nothing wrong with using shi or kyu. It is not a forbidden word. It is okay to use it. You don't have to be afraid of it. But when you're like talking about something and the number 4 comes up by itself, then that would be when you would want to use yon instead of shi. One fun thing that you might notice as you get better at Japanese is that people tend to count up one way and then they will count down the opposite way. And they'll flip-flop which way they do it. So if they're counting up and they use shi and ku when they're going up, then when they come down and they count backwards, they will instead use yon and kyu. This is also true for shichi and nana. They'll use one version while they're counting up, and then they'll use a different version when they're counting down. So they'll do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But then when they go back down, if they count backwards, they will say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And actually, if you get on YouTube and look for any kind of children's song that teaches numbers, you will notice this in the songs also. For example, one of my daughter's favorite songs is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then it counts backwards and it's 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 6, 5, 7, 6, 5, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you see how they did it backwards. On the way up, they went one way, and on the way down, they used a different word completely. So these words are used. It is okay to use them. Don't be afraid of it. It's just considered unlucky. Okay? It's not a taboo word. Anyway, we are all done with this lesson. So it's time to say bye-bye. I'll see you next time.